On my right is Huddersfield, and on my left is Castle Hill. So in this video I'm going to show you what's up there, are there any costs involved, where do you park, and something of the history of the place. For vehicular access, you'll come along Ashes Lane and then turn onto this road up here. This road will eventually go to places like Almondbury Common, but there's a little turn off just off to the side here, and that leads you up to the car park. So on foot you can access the place pretty much whenever you want, but if you're arriving in a car, keep track of the opening hours, at least for this barrier, which gets closed different times of the year. So what is it now? We're in early August, so this closes at 9 PM. I'm not driving up, of course, I'm just on foot. But if you're coming by car, you'll head up that way there. Just make sure you don't get locked in if you stay too long. That's actually a long way down. So this is what's known as an Iron Age hill fort. However, the earliest archaeological remains here date from the early Bronze Age, around about 2150 BC. So there was habitation up here long before the Iron Age. The first thing you'll notice when you come up here, it's surmounted by the Victoria Tower, also known as the Jubilee Tower. It was opened in 1899 for the Jubilee of Queen Victoria. And don't expect that you're going to be able to get in there because it's usually closed. It is open on certain days of the year. You need to check the Kirklees Council website for the dates when it is actually open, and I think there is an entry fee of a couple of pounds contactless paying. I haven't been up there. Every time I've come here it's always been closed. Later on in the Iron Age, around about 550, 555 BC by best estimates, the original banks and ditches were encircled around the site, most likely for defensive purposes, but also maybe for a bit of show as well. You can still see traces of the banks and ditches around this hill fort. However, most of these were recut by the Normans, so they're not the original Iron Age ones, though they're probably still in the original place. It's just the Normans made them deeper and wider. Here we go. What's this? Cornerstone of this tower erected by public subscription, the 60th year of the reign of Queen Victoria, June 20th, 1897. So it started in 1897, finished in 1899. There's Huddersfield down that way, just down there. Farnley is just around that way, and I took a walk there in my video about public footpaths in the UK. This is it here, the car park. And Saturday morning, not as busy as I thought it would be, but just make sure you stake out a claim here, get here early because it does fill up. I've seen a lot of people up here. Now, this is really interesting. Just over that way there, that's where the Castle Hill Hotel used to be. Now, when was that built? Hang on, I've got the information. 1852, Castle Hill Hotel opened. I think there was an earlier one on the site. It was eventually knocked down in 2005. So it was here for a good while. Apparently there was the intention of, after knocking it down, they were going to build something grander and modern and all that sort of thing. Nothing eventuated. As you can see, it's still a big, open, empty space. Archaeological investigation has also determined that around about 430 BC, the entire settlement up here, the fortifications, were either partly damaged or completely destroyed, possibly in an attack. There's a great deal of evidence of burning here. Now, it doesn't mean to say that it was an attack. I mean, it may have been. There may have been a neighbouring tribe which came in. There was a fight here, and the whole place was just gutted, and then it was determined not to live here any further. However, for whatever reason, the people who owned and controlled this hill fort and the surrounding areas, they thought that maybe the hill fort was no longer of use to them. And so instead of just walking away and abandoning it, they performed some sort of ritual burning. They ritually destroyed it. And we've seen things like that in other archaeological sites, other historical places around the United Kingdom. When something falls out of use, there's some sort of ceremony to block it up or to render it no more useful. So that may have been what happened here. There's also a thing that happened here called vitrification, and that's a very rare phenomenon in England. That's where the heat is so intense that stone and rock actually melts. Nobody knows how the people, the Iron Age people, were able to generate that amount of heat. So parts of the fort were actually melted. Very rare in England. It's much more common in Scotland, but I think there's only 2 or 3 examples in the entire country of England. This is one of them right here. After Castle Hill went out of use, after the burning, it laid here for several centuries and it wasn't really used at all. There was some hastily put together refortifications going on after the Roman invasion of 43 AD. It seems that the locals were quickly trying to get themselves ready for a Roman attack. Apparently it never came, and whatever fortifications and remodeling they were doing here wasn't seen through. The next major phase of the history of Castle Hill involves the Normans. What they did was, when they got here, they constructed a motte and bailey. You can see this big ditch running along here. This wasn't originally here. This wasn't part of the Iron Age hill fort. The Normans dug that out. And where Victoria Tower now stands, that was the motte. That was a little timber castle. This was the military stronghold that the Normans built. Now, with a motte and a bailey, you have the motte. This is the bailey over here. This is the second segment that the Normans created up here on top of the hill. This is the place where you had some people living. You had blacksmiths and craftsmen and armourers and cooks and maybe a little chapel. All sorts of things that would help to run the castle behind me there. And then further over that way, there was a third segment, which was kind of another bailey, and that's really where you had the villagers and the soldiers living. Castle, workshop area, like blacksmiths and all that sort of thing. And then the next segment along would have been the area where people lived. And just coming back into the motte, and there's a well over here. This is a well I believe the Normans sunk, and it's, as you can see, just behind the tower. I'm now walking into the second bailey, and literally where I'm walking right now, the grass is a little bit greener here. That's where I am. Directly ahead of me, and just from behind where I've come from, this was a road right through this part of the hill fort. A little bit later on, there were attempts made to found a small town here, and this was the road that they put through, and there were houses and shops and workshops and everything on either side of this road, running right along this area here. Didn't last too long. I think by the 14th century, mid-14th century, it sort of became defunct. These sorts of places always attract legends and folk tales and things like that. There's supposed to be some sort of golden cradle that was buried here in one of the ditches eons ago, protected by a dragon. There's also stories of tunnels radiating out from Castle Hill, one of which apparently is supposed to go all the way from up here, where we are here, down through the valley and out to Farnley. Just why someone would build a tunnel all the way from here to Farnley, I'm not sure. In the late medieval period onward, the top of Castle Hill here became the site of a beacon, a warning beacon for enemy invasion. I guess they're thinking, French or Spanish, like Spanish Armada sort of thing. I don't know how old this beacon tower here is, but gives an idea of what was here on the site for a long time. Just a warning beacon, a way of communication with the surrounding area. There we go, Castle Hill, Huddersfield. awesome place to visit. Just make sure you bring a jacket or a pullover. The weather is very changeable up here, and it's cooler up here than it is down in the valleys, of course. Just want to say thanks very much for watching the video. I hope you liked it and found it informative. If you like this sort of content, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you again on my next walk.